Good morning. My name is Jason Ishii, Chairperson of the Authority. I'd like to now call to order the May 3rd, 2023 at-large authority meeting of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. And the time is now 9:41.
Thank you, Chair. In accordance with section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, the Hawaii Community Development Authority is holding today's at-large board meeting virtually on Zoom. The Zoom link details were included on the meeting agenda. Therefore, members of the public are welcome to join us on Zoom and also at our physical meeting site at the American Brewery Building, 547 Queen Street, second floor boardroom, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. The meeting is being live streamed on HCDA's YouTube page. The HCDA communication staff is hosting this meeting. Once the meeting begins, everyone will be muted for clearer audio. Board members, if you have any comments or questions, please unmute yourselves to speak. This is a public virtual meeting, so to prevent any distractions, if you are not a board member, staff member, or HCDA's Attorney General, please turn off your video during the meeting. If you are providing public testimony, your name will be called accordingly. Please turn your video on, clearly state your name and affiliation, and proceed with your testimony. When you are finished, please turn off your video. In accordance with section 92-3.7C Hawaii Revised Statute, if the authority's ICP connection for the remote meeting is lost, the meeting will be recessed until the connection is restored. If the connection cannot be restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be terminated. The authority will continue the meeting at another notice date. Thank you.
HCDA board members, please remain visible and audible during the meeting. Also, please acknowledge you are present by either saying here or present. Let the record reflect the following members are present. Vice Chair Apo.
Here.
Higa.
Here.
Member Miranda Johnson. Member Nasser.
Here.
Member Hirai. Here. Member Aoki. Member Evans.
Here.
Member Suji.
Here.
Member Sakota.
Here.
Member Ray. Member Ray's excused. Member Leong.
Here.
And Member Light.
Here.
Do we have quorum?
We do have quorum, Chair, 10 members.
Okay, for today's meeting, board members will have an opportunity to ask questions or provide comments after an agenda item has been presented. Individuals from the public who have requested to provide verbal public testimony on a specific agenda item are on standby and will be permitted into the meeting respectively. The first item on the agenda is our regular meeting minutes of January 4th, 2023. Board members, are there any comments or corrections to these minutes? If there are no comments or questions, the minutes are approved as presented. Second item on the agenda is a decision-making item. Shall the authority establish pursuant to section 92-2.5B Hawaii Revised Statutes a permitted interaction group for the purpose of 1, conducting the executive director's annual performance review, and 2, establishing the executive director's 1, 3, and 5-year goals, and accordingly amend the agency's strategic plan adopted by the authority at the November 2nd, 2022 General Authority meeting. Mr. Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director, will now present HCDA's staff report.
Thank you, Chair. The staff report for this is contained in tab 2 of your packet. Essentially, I was hired in May of 2022. So this right now represents the sort of 1-year anniversary of my employment. And my employment agreement requires the authority to conduct an annual performance evaluation based on the performance goals and objectives that have been established by the authority in the strategic plan that was adopted in November of 2022. Those are the 1-year goals. In addition to the evaluation, the PIG should look at the 1, 3, and 5-year goals and adjust those goals as they think necessary to reflect the changing activities and directives of the agency. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, ideally, we're looking for individuals to serve on this PIG there's 2 sections. One, to help with the evaluation of the anniversary of Executive Director Nakamoto. Secondly, is to take a look at the strategic plan and make any adjustments as necessary, deemed necessary. And because the strategic plan is a part of this PIG, I would recommend that if we could potentially have volunteers from each of the different boards would be helpful so that it can be looked at in all areas. Do I have any volunteers or any members that would like to participate in this PIG?
Chair,
Member Higa.
can we find out who's on the PIG that provided the first one? At least give the names of the members of that group.
Sure, I believe the only members that are left is Member Sakota and myself, I believe. Is that correct, Member Sakota? Because I believe it was also others, but they're no longer on the board.
Yeah, that was, if I may, I think that was the PIG to conduct a search for the executive director. Because this is my first year, performance evaluation. So I believe that was a PIG. So it was former member Chair Todani at that time, right?
Right.
I think. Member Leong, I think you were on that committee,
Yes,
search committee.
I was.
as-
Yeah.
And then now Chair Ishii and Member Sakota, I believe.
I think I was too.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
Puni was on as well. Yeah.
Member Lang, sorry.
There were 2
That's okay.
committees, that's why I picked committees. There's one for the search and then there was one for the strategic plan.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are 2 different PIG permitted action.
Correct.
I think I was on both.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Correct.
And
Member Light.
And I think what we're proposing is to just create one PIG that looks at the evaluation, looks at whether we've achieved those 1-year goals. And then secondly, to amend the strategic plan and make recommendations to the board on the new 1, 3, and 5-year goals for the agency and the executive director.
And especially with all the legislative session goals that have been put forth to the Community Development Association, I think it would be good for us to review that strategic goals as well. So do I have
I can do it.
any
Kevin Sakota.
Member Sakota?
I think I also heard Member Higa. Yeah,
Member Figa?
and Member Hirai.
Anyone else?
Member Leong or Member Light.
Anyone from the HEIA?
Joanne, you let me know what you want to do and I will follow. accordingly.
I want to tell you all that I have very old parents right now that I'm having to take care of. And so I would really appreciate, Puni, if you took it.
Will do.
Great, thank you, Member Light. And anyone from Maui?
No one from Maui.
What about for Kailailoa?
Member Ray is excused today, but
Okay.
we can suggest him. How about we suggest him?
I don't think you can,
Yeah,
because it's your evaluation.
Yeah, I know. Okay,
But
well, we can.
yeah, and I would like to participate as well.
Okay.
But let me go and check with Member Ray as well.
Okay,
But
and
why don't we
then,
put,
yeah, so far we have Member Ishii, Member Higa, Member Sakota, Member Hirai, Member Light, and then check with Member Ray, and then maybe we suggest maybe have someone from DNF there. So maybe Member Nasser or Member Salaveria.
Yeah, I can join.
excellent, that would be great because of a lot of the initiatives, so thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
so any public testimony on this? None. Okay.
Okay, members, are there any questions or comments? If not,
So do we have anybody from, nothing, so just somebody from our?
Well, this is, no, we don't
That's
have,
official, right?
we don't have members right now. I mean,
We don't have, we have.
DPP, we can suggest the. Or we can have member Tsuji.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be on the Maui one, so if you want me to be on the committee, I can.
Okay, why don't we have?
excellent.
Member
Thank you,
Tsuji,
Member
then.
Suji.
You can represent Maui. Yeah, thank you.
That's our
Member
land.
Tsuji.
That's our
Yeah, I
land.
know, I know. Thank you.
All right.
Okay,
So is there a motion for the authority to establish pursuant to section 92-2.5B Hawaii Revised Statutes, a permitted interaction group for the purpose of, one, conducting the executive director's annual performance review, and two, establishing the executive director's new 1, 3, and 5-year goals, and accordingly amend the agency's strategic plan adopted by the authority at the November 2nd, 2022 General Authority meeting. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Ricky seconds.
Okay, excellent. Is there any further discussions on this motion? If not, can I have, Ray, can you please take the roll call?
thank you, Chair. So on the motion made by member Light and seconded by member Higa. Member Light.
Aye.
Member Higa.
Aye.
Member Ishii,
Yes,
member Apo,
Aye.
member Miranda Johnson. Excused. Member Nasser,
Aye.
member Hirai,
Aye.
member Aoki. Excused. Member Evans,
Aye.
member Tsuji,
Aye.
member Sakota,
Yes.
member Ray is excused. Member Leon,
Yes,
thank you, Chair. The motion passes.
thank you. And thank you for all of you who are volunteering. The permitted action group will comprise of members. Want to read the
Yeah,
names?
I can. Chair Ishii, Secretary Higa, member Sakota, member Hirai, member Light, member Nasser, member Tsuji, and possibly member Ray. Correct?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you. Okay, next thing on the agenda, next item on the agenda, report of the executive director, the monthly financial highlights for December 2022 through March 2023. Garrett Sasaki, Administrative Services Officer, will now present the 2022 to March 2023 financial highlights.
Chair, I can present the highlights, so, and then Garrett can be here for any questions or details. So the financial highlights are presented in tab 3 of your packet. So I just wanna, starting from the top, just highlight a few significant items. So you'll notice that in item number 1 of the discussion, the net change in the special fund balances for March, there was significant change in the Hawaii Community Development Special Fund. And the reason for that, it reflects an outlay of $979,129, and this was the cash outlay portion for our acquisition of Block P. And this comes out of the reserve housing subaccount. So the detail of that you can find on Exhibit 1. And as you recall, that was an acquisition where we came up with approximately $1 million in cash, approximate that amount. And then the rest of it was purchased through a combination of sale of floor area in our bank, industrial credits. And that was a transaction with Howard Hughes, and that's for that 20,000 square foot parcel in central Kakako. The other significant items are in item number 3 under Roman 2. As we kind of promised, we promised to the board that we would report on expenditures in which we procured. So item number 1, in December, we procured island-wide fencing to install a fence around the Kewalo Basin Harbor Wharf in the amount of $40,231. This fencing was necessary to ensure public safety and control access to that portion of the Kewalo Basin Wharf. As you know, this is a part of that wharf and pier that's deteriorating and that needed repairs for a number of years. We haven't been able to get appropriations from the legislature, so this year we decided that for public safety reasons, we needed to fence off the area, especially because OHA is actively using the landside area for food trucks and other activities. We executed a 1-year contract with PBR Hawaii for the planning and design of a dog park at Kolowalu Park. In February, we used Waikiki Health for janitorial, trash collection, and maintenance services for Kewalo Basin Harbor and Kolowalu Park. And then we procured CBRE to perform an appraisal for parcel 5 in Kalailua. This matter hasn't been brought to the board yet, but we got an appraisal for the purpose of doing a valuation study on a possible acquisition of that parcel for affordable housing purposes. This is a parcel on Saratoga Avenue. And then in March of 2023, as I mentioned, we completed the purchase of Block P at the cost of $979,129. Thank you, Chair.
So members, are there any questions or comments on this report, on the executive director's report?
This is member Higa. I just wanted more information about the Waikiki Health contract. I tried to look up Waikiki Health and it appears to be like a healthcare provider. So I was wondering, is this the same company that is doing janitorial work for us? Or is there a company of similar name?
Member Higa asked Lindsay to come up and give more background on Waikiki Health.
Hi, Member Higa. You're correct. That is the same company. This actually was born out of a long-standing agreement that first started years ago when Waikiki Health was operating Next Step Shelter over in Kakako, Makai. They had a jobs training program in which they took shelter residents and kind of trained them up to give them job skills, build resumes, and gave them work, which normally they wouldn't be able to get. So we really supported that program. We entered into, at that time, it was a memorandum of agreement to hire them to do all of the park janitorial, clean the bathrooms at Waterfront Park, clean up all the trash. It was a really large undertaking for them. So I gave them a lot of work, a lot of job skills, and we were pleased with their performance. So we continued that agreement for a number of years. Eventually, when we got rid of all the parks, we downsized the contract and we went out to bid for a smaller contract for just Kolowalu Park and Kewalo Basin. It's that parking lot next to Ala Moana Beach Park, because we no longer have Waterfront Park and Gateway Parks. So we did put that contract out to bid because Waikiki Health had been very familiar with that work that we needed. They ended up being the lowest bidder. So that's how we ended up with them. It is a strange, entity because you wouldn't think that they could do that sort of thing, but it's actually a very mutually beneficial agreement, I think.
Thank you. That's super helpful context. As a nonprofit director, I was just looking at their website and thinking about mission creep on their part more than our part. But thank you for that context.
No problem.
Thank you for that question, Member Higa. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question on Member Paul. So I'm confused about the Howard Hughes, what are their boundaries of their lease agreement? I assume does not include the Ala Moana Park side of the parking area that she was talking about?
Does not, it does not.
Okay, it does not. So
Yeah.
Howard Hughes has jurisdiction over everything over the water.
Correct. And they also have jurisdiction over, the Kewalo Basin Harbor that I spoke about, the wharf that needs repairs. However, under the general lease that we signed with Howard Hughes, they were responsible for replacing the floating docks in the harbor, and they did. And we were responsible for making those repairs on the Kewalo Basin Harbor, pier.
Right. So they
which
have
we-
everything that's over water is there, so that when the pier, the part of the pier that goes over the water is HCDA. Soon as the land starts, at least on the Fisherman's Wharf area, that's OHA, correct? So there's a
Correct.
line, there's a
Yeah.
line drawn right there at the water's edge. Anything
Yeah.
over the water is HCDA, I
Yeah.
mean, and HCDA, I mean, then the
Yeah.
other question is, under Howard Hughes, they brought in their own harbor master, which is contracted out to a California company. Is that correct?
Correct, that's Alamar.
Okay, so the harbor master, does the Harbors Division, DOBOR or Harbors Division have any jurisdiction over the water
Well,
that
I-
supersedes the privatization of the harbor master under Howard Hughes?
so I think they still retain jurisdiction over, water and other things on the water. But the harbor master is, that function of the harbor master is privatized under Howard Hughes' lease.
Right. So the leasing agreement, particularly at the Fisherman's Wharf, where it's a high revenue thing, that's all Howard Hughes, yes? On the mooring, the actual.
The moorings, all the moorings and the mooring permits are part of Howard Hughes' lease.
Yes, okay,
You were mentioning, Member Poe, from on the Kewalo Basin side, everything from sort of that land side is OHA's.
okay, thank you. You answered my question.
Thank you, Member and Vice Chair Uphold. Any other questions? Or comments? Do we have any public testimony? Okay. Next item on the agenda is an update to the 2023 legislative bills pertaining to the Hawaii Community Development Authority regarding the following measures. HB 300, HD 1, SD 1 relating to the state budget, SB 1286, SD 1 relating to the Hawaii Community Development Authority 99-year lease pilot program, SB 1417, SD 1 relating to the climate change, SB 865, SD 2, HD 1 relating to the housing, Aloha, also known as FKA Aloha Homes, GM 579, consideration of Joanne Leong, GM 639, consideration of Chase Ishii, GM 662, consideration of Peter Apol, GM 668, consideration of Kevin Sakota, and GM 669, consideration of Kai Waipuni. Mr. Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director, will now provide an update.
Thank you, Chair. And members, it's been a very interesting legislative session and very challenging one from the start. I think tomorrow is sine die for the legislature. In the end, there were of all the bills we were tracking and monitoring, there were just a few bills that I wanted to highlight. I'll start with some of the easy ones first. As Chair mentioned, all of the board members whose terms were expiring on June 30th, 2023 were confirmed. So congratulations to those members and really thank you for serving on the HCDA board. And thank you for putting up with sort of the ups and downs of that process as we went through a transition year between the former governor and this governor. So again, congratulations and thank you for serving everyone.
So
Thank-
great, so PTSD hasn't kicked in yet, yeah?
Not yet, but soon. Soon. And then, so going up the list, Senate Bill 1417 is a climate change bill that was introduced by Senator Moriwaki and asked us to look at climate change and its effect on building, siting, design in both our Kalaeloa and Kaka'ako districts. So that bill was passed out by the conference committee. I'm gonna assume it's gonna be passed by the legislature. We're gonna have to engage in rulemaking and significant community engagement to develop those rules for the Kaka'ako and Kalaeloa district. I think it's an important first step in addressing the impact of climate change in both those districts. Senate Bill, I'll go to Senate Bill 1286 first. So Senate Bill 1286 really started out as part of the administration's package to give us the right to enter into a 99-year lease on non-ceded lands. And the idea for that was to test a leasehold for sale product in the market. And the idea for that really came from last session and Senator Chang's bill on that he introduced for the Hawaii Community Development Authority. And we thought that while we're not per se a housing agency, that we should be part of the housing solution, and it's consistent with the board's previous policy direction on trying to increase housing in the districts. So we introduced that bill as it moved through the House and Senate, and especially to the House. It became a pilot program specifically for one development parcel in the Kaka'ako district. Presumably Block P that we just spoke about and we just closed on. As that bill was going through the House committees, another bill sort of popped up on the radar, and that was Senate Bill 865. And that was formerly known as the Aloha Homes Bill. So that is a bill that has been championed by Senator Chang for a long time and others. And that bill was originally placed under the Hawaii Public Housing Authority. During a joint housing and water and land committee, the decision-making resulted in that bill being transferred to the Hawaii Community Development Authority. Myself, Garrett, Francine, and Ryan Tam, we had meetings with Senator Chang, Representative Hashimoto to discuss this bill and give our input. In the end, only one bill passed out of the conference committee, and that was Senate Bill 865. That bill has positions attached to it. There's 2 general funded positions to help with the program. And there's $1,500,000 to help with rulemaking, which is going to be necessary to implement this program, and pre-development site work and planning. This bill, even though 1286 did not pass out, I think 865 gives us some flexibility because it requires us to try and test one leasehold product or develop one product within a 1 mile radius of the locally preferred alternative, so the rail route. So it really gives us flexibility to develop a project in Kalaeloa or in Kaka'ako or anywhere along the rail route. And we're just going to have to test this product to see if it's going to work in the market. But I think we're glad to work with Senator Chang and see if this product, is gonna work. Any questions so far? The members?
One question from Russell Tuji. Do you have any parcels in mind? Do you have under HCDA's control or hope to acquire?
So, one parcel that could be a candidate for it or possible site is that Block P in Kakako. That's the 20,000 square foot parcel that we just acquired. If we were to acquire a parcel in Kalailua, that might be a candidate for development. Otherwise, I think honestly, we're gonna try to work with you, Russell, and DLNR to see if there's any land along the rail route that could be a candidate or could be suitable for this development.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Vice Chair Poole?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I really want to thank the executive director for its great navigation of the legislative process, particularly the dignity in which they went day in and day out, and stood the ground and was able to represent HCDA with tremendous dignity, which is in short supply these days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair.
Vice Chair Poole, my sentiments are in agreement. It was a very difficult legislative session. It was very challenging and Craig and his team really navigated the session quite well. They did gain a lot of confidence, as you can see, in what was been put upon or bestowed upon HCDA. You can see that from the senators, especially seeing, I was telling Craig, watch out what you asked for, because he did such a great job in presenting that, it seems like ACD has a lot far more responsibility now.
Thank
going
you.
forward.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, but let me just say that, it was a team effort and, I was really grateful to have Francine, Garrett, Ryan, there to prepare for the hearings. And then, just in small ways, we had, staff like Kapili, Tommy Lin, Garrett's ASO staff. When we needed to get to the Capitol right away and really last minute, they dropped us off, picked us up. So even in a lot of small ways, the whole staff helped out a lot. So it was a team effort. Chair, I have one more bill that I wanted to cover, maybe which is, maybe one of the most important ones. So this is House Bill 300, the state budget. So as of right now, the budget worksheets haven't been issued. I think they're gonna come out later this month and we'll see a little bit more detail. But just the highlights here. So the operating budget for the agency is included in the budget, and that looks okay for operations and of the agency and the office. In addition, there's about $200 million in general funds for transit-oriented development projects. This $200 million, just for context, was part of a larger proposed appropriation that was in Senate Bill 1191. And that was we estimated that was in the amount of close to $696 million. So that amount, some of those projects were transferred from SB 1191 and put into the budget. So they include $2 million for East Kapolei infrastructure implementation, master plan and programmatic EIS. About $27.5 million for Kakako street upgrades, which includes a $4.5 million county matching. And then, the next two items are really something that we've been trying to get for a long time, and I kind of credit Jermaine on our staff and Mark Kokoda for pushing this issue, and also others who have really pushed this issue at the ledge. But we got 12.125 million for Saratoga Avenue electrical upgrades, 47 million for Kalaeloa district-wide electrical upgrades. So that represents a significant amount where we can bring the district electrical system, up to modern standards. And the lack of a reliable electrical system in the Kalaeloa district is a #1 sort of impediment to more development. We also got $86 million for Ivole Kapalama infrastructure upgrades that kind of support transit-oriented development in that area. We're going to have to work with the city and other stakeholders as we work through those. And we got 35 million for University of West Oahu on-site infrastructure improvements as well. And then for the Heia members, we were able to get $1 million to construct an access road in the Heia Community Development District. This is to access, allow access for stream cleanup. This amount doesn't come up until fiscal year 2024, 2025. So not this coming fiscal year, but the next fiscal year. But the fact that it was included, I think, is significant for the Heia district. Now, all of these amounts that I mentioned are, subject to getting subject to governor review. The TOD infrastructure projects. One of the things that got raised at the Senate level, I think, was, there was recognition that they wanted to give these funds to us, but they also recognized that we may not be able to do all of these projects ourselves. So they recognize that we can delegate and transfer these funds to other agencies, relevant agencies. So for example, some of the planning funds could go to OPSD for their planning efforts and other agencies. So we plan to look through the list and work with other agencies to, transfer as appropriate. These TLD funds, I think, Member Nasser got to work with you as well, and Member Hirai, but these TLD funds are in A funds. So these are general funds that have a 1-year clock on it to encumber. So we've got a really short time frame to encumber. And finally, my sort of promise to the legislators at the time was that even if we delegate, or even if we transfer or delegate some of these funds, that I would report back to the ledge and I would, report on the progress of these. So, yeah. Member Hirai.
I didn't see your proviso.
Yeah. I hope
in the
it's,
SD1.
I hope it's in the budget worksheet somewhere, but anyway, we gotta look at it. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, those are, that's the highlights in the budget bill. Like I said, we worked on the TLD projects and the funding. We worked very closely with HHFDC, OPSD, UH West Oahu on these. So I'm grateful for their collaboration as well.
Questions, comments? So you can see the budget.
Question, Kevin Sakota, question for Craig. In our strategy sessions that we did last year, I mean, part of the push was to push the HCDA as sort of a infrastructure building organization with that type of expertise. Do you sense that was sort of accepted or acknowledged positively in the legislature, and that as a result, the HCDA is getting more of a nod to organize these types of projects going forward?
Thanks for the question, Member Sakota. I think there's a couple factors. Last session, the Transit Oriented Development Infrastructure Development Program, Act 184, was passed by the legislature. And I think that was recognition by the legislature that they wanted us to work on these transit oriented development infrastructure projects. I think that's one factor. I think the second is, as I was briefing the legislature at the beginning, the Ways and Means, especially in finance, I spoke about the strategic plan that the board reviewed and adopted in November of last year. And I told them that part of our vision, the board's vision, was to continue to focus on our community development districts, not to lose sight of what we needed to do, but also to have a role or have a vision to help other state agencies in developing infrastructure. Because we have the experience and the expertise to do it. And I think that resonated, especially on the Senate side. And I told them that for that, we reorganized the planning and development department to split it up into two departments, of capital improvement section led by Mark Kokota, and then planning and development section led by Ryan Tam. And it was our sort of attempt to really do more with what we have. And I believe that resonated with the Ways and Means Committee and to some extent with finance. But I hope that answers your question, Member Sakota.
Okay. No, I like what I've seen so far coming out, from you. And at some point, I hope to change sort of the view or the sentiment towards the HCDA. And one of the things that I look for is that is more funding, so that we can get more people and better people, into the agency, and that we can do kind of more good things. Yeah. So I sense that some of that's turning the corner, but it's still got a far way to go.
I appreciate that, Member Sakota. I think it takes one step at a time, and I think this is one step at a time. I always believe that it takes a long time to sort of rebuild trust, but it starts with one step, and I think this is one step. But I think as I've talked to staff about this too, it's one thing to get the money, but when you get the money, then you got to execute. Especially these kinds of funds, you have to execute. So that's what we're going to spend our time knowing how we can execute on these projects, and then having me report back to the legislature. But I appreciate your comments, Member Sakota. It's one step at a time.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, this kind of funding level from ACDA is definitely on the radar now. So there's quite a lot more pressure on the grade. That's for sure. I also, Greg, I had a question.
Okay.
So, how or are we going to navigate? Or do you have a plan on how you're going to navigate the city and county matching portion though? Because I mean, it's for the state to say, okay, go ahead and have city and county match, but to get it completed, it's
Somebody has to carry the message.
somebody has to carry the message to the city, right? So it's
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I think,
we'll figure it out.
yeah. I'll work with Member Hirai and
Okay.
he will. I believe that, the dynamic between the city and HCDA, city and state, I think is better now. I really enjoy the collaborative relationship that we have with the city and its staff. So I'm hopeful that we can navigate through that and try to get some matching money.
excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because
I mean, the budget hasn't even been enacted into law yet.
but what it does have a city county
Yeah.
We have to remember,
infrastructure matching.
we have to
section,
remember
so-
that fact that it hasn't been enacted yet.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Looks like we have a question from, wait, before we go to public, is there any other questions or comments
By the members?
from the members?
Here's one from Patricia Shields.
Okay, we do have a question or comment from Patricia Shields. Patricia? You're muted. There
Okay,
you go.
better? You can hear me
Yeah.
now? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I don't know if this is the right forum to address this, but after hearing all of these projects that HCDA is involved in and money's been provided by the legislature, is anything on the radar for us and at Honuakaha?
Hi, can I answer that?
Sure.
Chair. Hi, Ms. Shields or Patricia, how are you doing?
Good, good, sir. Very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. So in the budget itself, there is no, if you're asking if there's an appropriation for Honoka, there isn't. But as you know, for the senior rental side, you know, we have ongoing maintenance to do for the units, and we're going to execute on those things. That is separate and apart from the budget, and that's an obligation that we have as the owner of Honoaka Senior Rentals. We have that obligation, and we also have the obligation to, you know, improve things at Honoaka, and that's something that I'm committed to do, working with my staff.
Okay.
And Patricia,
Yes.
I'd be happy to sit down one-on-one with you and go over these offline too.
I'd love to. Thank you. What is your name?
Craig Nakamoto.
Oh, you're Craig.
Yeah.
I see you, Craig. Okay. Okay.
No worries. Well, you know where I live, and I know where you live, so happy to speak with you on offline.
I didn't recognize you.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
But thank you. Thank you. I will sit down with you.
Thank you, Craig. We'll talk later.
Great. Thank you for the
Thank you.
question.
Wow.
Any other questions, comments, or any public testimony? If not, thank you for those who have joined us on Zoom, in person, or via YouTube. This concludes our business for today, and the meeting is adjourned, and the time is 10:28. Thank you. And we'll come back in 5 minutes for the Kalai Law meeting. Thank you.